Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity.
I would say that ability for a long time has been a standard that is socially constructed. So we're expected to be able to walk or to be able to write or to think in a certain way. And so I think that ability has become a very privileged word in our society about standards for the way that people are living.
What I've learned is that there isn't like a great definition of what it means to be able-bodied or disabled. In my disability literature class with Dr. Ian Fox last spring, we learned a lot about the variety of human experiences and how the human body cannot be defined by one particular set of rules or lines or terms, and so I think you can't really distinguish what it means to be able-bodied because it means something different for everybody.
I guess what it means to be able is if you're able to do the things and activities that you want to do.
To be able to function in a society.
I think what it means to be able is to have access, to have equal access to everything and anything that your peers have access to as well. This could include anything social, anything academic, a place, a resource, just pretty much access.
I feel like I'd like to answer the first two questions at the same time. I feel like you can't talk about what able means without talking about what people think disabled means. I think they're relational words. Maybe, and I think that might be something that's problematic. Like, does there have to be something that's able and disabled?
To have any constraints in modern society.
If you're disabled, it means that you can't do a lot of the stuff that maybe you would like to do or need to do.
I feel like disabled is a category of convenience that society uses to lump many quote-unquote disabilities together into what we don't consider normative.
Being disabled is not something that can be defined. It can range from but I don't want to like draw lines around anything, I guess is the point. Is that I learned that disability isn't something that can be particularly defined the same way that being able-bodied can't be particularly defined.
Yeah, I agree that it's very much a construct or like a catch-all phrase that's used for so many things. I think that's why it's so hard to kind of latch into this topic, is because it can mean like such a huge spectrum of things.
The way that we measure standards, the people who don't have all the expected abilities, we call them disabled.
To be disabled, I guess, on the flip side would be to not have access. I think we all have differences. Some just happen to be physical, some are emotional or mental, and whenever our access is limited, prohibited, threatened, I think that's what it means to be disabled.
I think it speaks to, again, the variety of things that people can be experiencing, and the fact that, again, you can't draw lines around disability, that disability can range from anything from a mild learning disability to a lot of physical issues.
Yeah, so I think that means that disabilities are real and they're prevalent, and there's a bunch of them. They don't just come in one form.
I guess
so I think
when you point it out like that, it kind of does seem weird because they have different areas that they impact, and it could be cool if maybe each one was more specified.
I think that it's a touchy subject. I think that there's such a wide array. Disabilities becomes the umbrella category.
It's illustrative of the fact that we know so little about each of them, and we have difficulty classifying them, and we have difficulty adapting or helping those with them adapt to the society that they live in.
Where we are in college at our age level, it's not so much a target of harassment or torment, but more so of of pity, or that person is weaker. Yeah, so I guess instead of a stigma, it's more of reflects our behavior and how we change the way we interact with other people because we assume that they are different than ourselves and they deserve different treatment.
Probably with disability in general and with specific ones, yeah.
I do think that unfortunately there is a stigma. There is sort of the bodily norm that people associate with being able-bodied, which often denies ideas of normalcy to people that don't conform to those rules, which ultimately denies them rights.
Going off of that, I definitely feel like I'm even now trying to skate around things, and I don't feel like I know how to talk about disability or ability. Maybe because I've had few conversations where we've really delved into the topic.
Yes, I do. I think that there are a lot of stigmas because for a long time it's been seen as a lack. It's been seen as not being able to perform at the level that society expects you to. So I think that along with the socially constructed idea of disability, that there are definitely very bad stigmas associated with it.
I feel like it's a subject that's difficult to talk about, which I feel like sort of sheds light on the stigma.
Yes, to a point, but I would also say that there is a gradual movement towards aiding and supporting those with disabilities, and I think that people with disabilities, when accepted, enrich an entire community.
Yeah, and I think the term differently abled is much more inclusive in that I feel like we're all differently abled, and it's much easier to identify with that term than with the term disabled or even with the term abled.
It sounds like a good thing. It'll probably take a little while to catch on just because I think it takes a little while to get used to saying a different word, but that could be definitely good. It has less of a negative sound.
I think it is a long time coming, and I hope that it picks up sooner rather than later, because we need to, as always, respect the fact that difference is not the same as deficiency.
I'm not a fan. I think that from my research in disability studies, the disability community claimed the word disability. And so I feel like more of an ally to the disability community by using the term disability. I think that differently abled almost waters it down.
I think language matters so much when we talk about any category, but particularly this one. And so I think the fact that we're using this language to acknowledge the fact that it's not a lack or a shortcoming, but is just a difference.
Differently abled versus disabled. I think it depends on who you ask. And I think perhaps maybe someone who wanted to change the word was hoping that by changing the word, they would also change social behavior. So my question, I guess, to you would be, do you think that this new term, differently abled, would change people's behavior? I mean, it could. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily necessary. I think what would be necessary, instead of changing words to make things sound more politically correct, we should just go ahead and focus on changing interactions and behaviors with people with disabilities.
The use of language is often on a personal basis, personal preference, and so if people prefer differently abled, I think that's great. I think disability is a term that should not be something that should be feared, or there's such a range of language that can be applied that I don't think we should limit ourselves to any particular set of terms.
Supportive of, yes. Accessible to, not so much. Just with like the bricks and stuff, like if you have difficulty walking, it's difficult to walk around. Like I'll trip sometimes and I can like walk okay, or like a lot of the buildings don't have elevators, or but I think in terms of supportive, Davidson does a really good job of like being a welcoming community.
I think that Davidson is making an effort. Do I think that we're there? No. I think that there's still a lot of work to be done. I think that recently our support has been focused around learning disabilities and not any other categories of disabilities. So I think that we as a community have responsibility to make it more accessible. I think that we're starting to do a better job of being aware.
Yes, and I think that in instances where they could improve, they're more than willing to open up to the idea of doing so.
I don't know. I think we could also have a stronger focus on learning disabilities, because I don't really know what's available for people with learning disabilities, but I know there are many students that do have those, and I just think we could be, I think we're getting there, but I think we could be a lot stronger about how we openly, in our literature, in our language, are accepting of all types of people.
Not necessarily. I think there are attempts at being accessible. I definitely don't think that we're there yet.
I think to an extent Davidson is pretty good at being accessible for people with disabilities. Again, how we define disabilities can vary. It can be physical, mental, or emotional. In terms of physical disabilities, it does okay. Davidson's okay, but there's lots of room for improvement. I think the one thing that Davidson, that all of us who may not have as pronounced disabilities love is that Davidson is a really old institution. However, when you have buildings that are very old, it's very hard to update them to fit accessibility standards. So Davidson, I know that we're trying very hard to make it more accessible, and there is room for improvement. But people are trying and working very hard to make Davidson a welcoming community to everyone.
Give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your arms for the broken-hearted, the ones that are far beyond my reach. Give me your heart for the ones forgotten. Give me your eyes so I can see